What's up, guys? Toad back with you yet again. Late night last night. I don't know if any of you joined the what was it called? Human Reaction podcast stream that I was on with Joe Sheehan, I think is his name, and I forget who the other dudes are on that. But we were hanging out doing a live election stream. They did a 7-hour election stream last night. I was on the last like 2.5 hours of it, but I was really losing steam at the end, man. Because we were just waiting for the election to be called. I can't believe it was actually called last night. Congratulations to God Emperor Trump. All hail Trump. I am happy about the results, obviously. I mean, what can you do? But we're here to talk about sports, right? Augustus, what's up, man? Yesterday I went 0-1, unfortunately, with my Pittsburgh Penguins play. They were winning that game 3-1 in the third period, man. And they blew the entire lead, and they wound up losing in a shootout. And I think they had the shot disparity in the game as well. I think they outplayed, I don't even remember who they were playing against, the Islanders. I think Pittsburgh outplayed them, and Pittsburgh had the lead, multi-goal lead in the middle of the third. As an underdog, it's a pretty good situation to be in, but they blew it. So we're going to move on to today, and I'm going to have my first college basketball. I like my college basketball play tonight. I got one college basketball play. I'm actually playing one of the Maction college football games just because these games are isolated, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I have a hockey play tonight, which maybe the hockey one is the weakest of the three, but I'm going to do it. And hopefully we can clean up tonight, man, with a nice spread. I think I'm being selective still, but I'm spreading it out across all three sports. Let's see if we can get this done quickly because I also have to get out of here. I'm already sharing my screen, am I? No, I'm not. Here we go. All right, let's do it. Scott, what's up, man? Steamrolling, slump continues. Yeah. The slump resumed last night. We have a big college basketball slate again. I mean, the college basketball slates are always going to be big on Wednesday and Saturday. And, of course, on the first day, it was huge on Monday. I'm going to talk about three of these games as quickly as I can because there are three games that I actually at least kind of have leans in, and all of them are similar in a way. I'm going to talk about a couple of later games first, and then my actual game I'm playing is a little bit earlier. The slate actually starts, it does start at 7 p.m. I thought there were afternoon games, but they're not. So Western Illinois, Pepperdine. I know. I'm going to talk about some low-tier games here. This is what we get in college basketball, and my game that I'm actually playing is even lower tier than these two games probably. But I'm going to mention these games. Well, no, they're about the same. Western Illinois at Pepperdine. Pepperdine's up from 3 to 3.5. This is not a game I'm playing, but I lean to the Pepperdine side, and I'm going to tell you why. Western Illinois, I mean, this is actually a really simple handicap. Western Illinois just went into San Jose State, and they upset San Jose State as a double-digit underdog. This Western Illinois team is in the Ohio Valley. San Jose is in a better conference, the Mountain West, which is pretty competitive. So San Jose is a better team, even if they're not one of the better Mountain West teams. Western Illinois had to step up in class in that game, and they upset San Jose State as a big underdog, 10.5-point underdog. And you see San Jose State only shot 34.8% from the floor, 18.8% from three. They had a really bad game, San Jose State did, so the shooting disparity, this is kind of unsustainably low, even if it's a bad shooting team like San Jose State. So I think Western Illinois is in a letdown after that big road upset. They have to play a second straight road game at Pepperdine. I'm going to lean to Pepperdine, and if you don't play at Pepperdine very often, which Western Illinois I'm sure does not, Pepperdine has a weird arena that could throw off teams that aren't used to playing there, where it's a very small arena, and the crowd is like almost right on top of you on the floor. So teams that are not used to playing there can get kind of thrown off by the environment. The only issue I have with this is that Pepperdine hasn't played a game yet. So a team that has played a game versus a team that has not played yet has that game out of the way already. So those like opening jitters might be out of the way, and they have the momentum, and they're kind of off and running. So that's the only reason I'm not going to lay the points with Pepperdine here, but I like the Pepperdine side. I checked all these games on KenPom as well. I checked 2 of the 3. The one that I'm playing, KenPom, I don't want to show it on my screen because I do pay for it, and it is like paid stuff. But KenPom does have Pepperdine, I think, a 4-point favorite in this game, so it's right around where the line is. Lean to Pepperdine in that one. And then I also lean to San Diego against Rider. San Diego's up from 1 to 1.5. This is a very similar situation to that other one. Rider has played a game. San Diego has not, but Rider, in their case, yeah, so they're out on the Pacific Coast as well, but they They had a big game in their first game against UCLA, a ranked UCLA team, even though this UCLA team might take a little bit of a step back from where they were the last couple of years in college basketball. But Rider did get absolutely blown out by UCLA. And UCLA is, of course, way better than Rider. I mean, Rider's one of the teams in the MAAC, the MAAC, so not a very good conference. UCLA shot abnormally high from the floor, though, 52.3%. But Rider was not making shots at all in this game. Rider was a 21.5-point underdog, so they didn't even cover in this game. But that's like the one reason I'm not going to play against Rider is because they did get blown out in that game, and it is at least a game under their belt, whereas San Diego does not have a game under their belt yet. But Rider did have to go out and step up in that game, and they're not used to playing in these venues out on the Pacific Coast. So San Diego is still in the Western, they're in the Western Coast Conference still, which is with Gonzaga. And it looks like Grand Canyon and Seattle are moving into the WCC. And Gonzaga, I think, is moving to the Pac-12 next year or something. So Grand Canyon and Seattle, the top two WAC teams, are moving into the WCC next year. Just a little added note there with these conference realignments that are just crazy. And I'm going to get thrown off by the Big 10, Big 12 conference realignments. Once we get into those in college basketball, it's made for some crazy spots in football. But San Diego, yeah, they're hosting Rider, but this is their home opener, of course. So it is the home opener for San Diego and Pepperdine. So that is also a motivator. I mean, you want to get your season off on the right foot. You tend to have a little bit more motivation in that home opener, and more of your crowd shows up before they realize that you suck. They show up for the home opener just because it's a big thing. It's the kickoff to the season. So there are conflicting factors there, but I do lean to those sides. And then the game that I'm actually playing, I know if you don't listen to my analysis on this and you just look at what I'm playing here, you go, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Why are you talking about these games? My playing basketball, this is to kick off the basketball season. My first play of the season is Cal State Northridge -1. I think I have -1 on this. I'll make sure that I do, but I like this spot, dude. I like it. Northridge has flipped from a 1-point dog to a 1-point favorite here. This is at Lemoyne. And I'm going to explain why Northridge is the right side here, other than the fact that the market looks like it is moving in the direction of Northridge and flipping the favor. And it looks like they're headed to 1.5, maybe 2. So I would want to get that under the 2, obviously, because the 2 is a key number in basketball because it's a bucket. So you want to get, obviously, you want to get the best number that you can. But try to lay under 2 if you're going to play Northridge in this one. Looking at Northridge, the way that I started this handicap is I looked at Lemoyne first. Lemoyne hasn't even been up in Division I for that long. They're kind of a newcomer to Division I in the NEC, the Northeastern Conference, which is one of the worst conferences, if not the worst in Division I. So right away, I'm already telling you, they're a worse team than Northridge. The line is also telling you that Northridge is the better team because they're on the road laying points at Lemoyne. So Northridge is the better team, and they're in a slightly better conference in the Big West. Whereas this NEC, I mean, I know this is where Fairleigh Dickinson is, and they had that ridiculous upset of Purdue in the tournament a couple years ago, but this NEC is one of the lowest teams in all of Division I. And they have a newcomer up here too, man. Mercyhurst has moved up to the NEC, and Chicago State has moved into the NEC from being an independent. Man, look at all these conference realignments. But Lemoyne, I believe they're based in Syracuse, New York, so this is a huge game for Lemoyne, and this is where I looked right away. I was like, I think I'm going to go against Lemoyne here. I mean, look at what they did in their opener. They went to the Carrier Dome. They played at Syracuse, who is, we know Syracuse, man. They're a staple of college basketball. They're fucking Syracuse. Like, that's a huge deal if you're I was going to say, I almost said loser. Well, yeah, Lemoyne, no, sorry. If you're a lower tier team like Lemoyne and you're from like their same city, basically, and you get to open your season against Syracuse, that's a big deal, man. And Lemoyne totally stepped it up in this game. They were winning the game at halftime, and they were still within a few points near the end. Lemoyne played Syracuse real tough almost all the way to the end. They were still within 1 point in the final minute of this game against Syracuse as a 22.5-point favorite at the Carrier Dome, or sorry, the JMA Wireless Dome. Now, Lemoyne almost beat Syracuse, and Syracuse did shoot abnormally low, 18.2 from 3. Lemoyne shot a little bit unsustainably high from the floor at 49.1. That's probably not going to happen again. Syracuse I was going to say, I thought they had more turnovers, but they didn't. But still, the shot percentages were a little bit unsustainable, but still, Lemoyne, that is a major, major step-up game. And, like, what are they possibly going to have left after putting in a performance like that? I think they're going to be completely gassed. This looks like a classic hangover spot. Huge game for Lemoyne that Lemoyne is coming off of, and they almost pulled off that monumental upset, basically, against their in-city big brother, who's one of the big names in college basketball. Meanwhile, Cal State Northridge is coming in, and Northridge also played a game already, and they're already in the state of New York because they opened their season against St. Bonaventure, so they're already up in upstate New York, so they don't have to travel that much. Neither team is traveling much, but Northridge, it's not like they have a bad travel spot here because they were already on the road. They got clobbered by Bonaventure in their first game, and not totally surprising. And Bonaventure is the better team, obviously, and better conference as well. I think still in the A10 there. Bonaventure was an 8.5-point favorite. They won the game. Not a whole lot else you could say about this. Northridge did turn the ball over a ton in this game, 21. But I think Northridge is in a much better spot to just refocus after they had a bad season opener. Now they get to play a much more winnable game against an inferior foe. And, of course, they're playing a Lemoyne team that's worse than St. Bonaventure as well. Ken Palm, by the way, has Northridge by 1 in this game as well. So the line is right in line where Ken Palm's power ratings are. So all that being said, it's mostly a play against Lemoyne in such a difficult spot coming off that huge game against Syracuse. So Cal State Northridge is the play there. In the NBA, we do have a bunch of games, and I'm not playing anything in the NBA. I just don't love it, man. Looking at a couple of these games, I did have some thoughts on Indiana. Orlando was one of the ones that kind of caught my eye a little bit. Indiana's returning home from a 2-game road trip, and they just beat Dallas to finish the road trip, going 1-1. So a very short road trip that didn't take them very far geographically, but they could be in a letdown because they just beat Dallas, man. They just beat the Western Conference champions from last year. So that's a big win. And now they're coming back home and they're facing this injured Orlando team who is without their star player Banchero there. But Indiana doesn't have a big game up next, so they have Charlotte. If they had the Knicks up next, I'd be like, man, this is a sandwich spot as well. It still doesn't look like the best spot. I think it's still a letdown spot for Indiana. And on the Orlando side, they're still looking for a win without Banchero, man. They haven't won a game since they've been without him, and they just got wrecked by Dallas on the road. So the public might come in and look at this and think, wait a minute, Orlando lost at Dallas badly, and Indiana went in and beat Dallas in Dallas. So, this is so easy. How can I not take Indiana here? And Orlando just has not played well at all, and they've been basically blown out in every game without Banchero. So who's going to want Orlando here? But Orlando is coming off kind of a step-up game, a tough game against Oklahoma City. They're playing a fifth game in a row on the road, and they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. So it's not the easiest spot for Orlando either. So I'm just going to lay off of it, but I think it is a letdown spot for Indiana. And Orlando, they're probably going to be focused because they're going to have to turn it on at some point, man. I think it's just a little bit misleading at this point. The Pacers looked so good against Dallas, and the Magic looked so bad against them. Pacers are laying 6 in this game. 90% of the tickets are the public all over the Pacers, it looks like, but 92% of the cash. Again, I'm not going to play it, but just pointing that out. And then we also got, Thunder Nuggets is a big game, but I don't really have much to say about this. Thunder are up from 4-7, so that might mean there are injuries on the Denver side because that just looks like a crazy line move there. I don't understand the reasoning for it. I haven't looked into this game that deeply because I just decided I was going to pass on it. 63% of the tickets on the Thunder, but 61% of the cash on the other side on the Nuggets. I would look into that and see if there are injuries on the Nuggets, why that line has moved up so much on the Nuggets. But the Thunder are the better team over the Nuggets now. We're seeing a shift in basketball now. The Nuggets are a little bit of an aging team there, even though they won the championship not that long ago. But, at a point where the line's getting past 7, though, on the road at Denver, I would start looking to the Denver side there, and the market does look to be in agreement with it, with the cash on the Nuggets side, but I'm not playing it, obviously. I'm not playing any of these. And then the Kings also look like they're in a bad spot. I don't know if there are any spots to be concerned with Oklahoma City and Denver. Well, we know Oklahoma City just blew out Orlando, but now they're starting a road trip, I think. So that is a focus spot. when you start a road trip typically. So, or Oklahoma City's in a focus spot. Denver is also in a focus spot because they just barely got by Toronto again at home. So both teams look like they should be in focus spots here. And as far as the injuries, it looks like Jamal Murray is out for Denver. Jokic doesn't look like he's out, though. So, I don't know. And Aaron Gordon's not coming back for a while. So, we do have some injuries there. I don't know that would really influence the line. 3 points, though, just with Murray out. I don't know. Kind of weird to me. But it looks like you're getting to the point where maybe there's value in taking the points on Denver. And Sacramento, they're in a bad spot. They're returning home from a road trip. I believe a pretty long road trip. Well, a 4-game road trip that took them into Elevation, into Utah, and then it took them out to Atlanta, the East Coast, then up to Toronto, and then back down to the southeast of Miami. So they were kind of zigzagging all over the place. And now they only have 1 day off, and they have to play this bad Toronto team, and they have the Clippers up next. So they have a bigger game up next, Clippers, and then Phoenix after this. So the spot for Sacramento doesn't look very good, except that the only game they just lost on that road trip was to this Toronto team. So that might be the one thing that might cause Sacramento to still show up in this game. The fact that they just lost to this team 2 games ago. So they might actually take Toronto seriously just for that reason. But when it is a return home spot from a long distance road trip like this, again, you tend to be a bit distracted. You have home life to get back to. You're getting stuff put away at home, dealing with family life and whatever. So they still could wind up being distracted in this game. And these games up next are bigger. As much as they might want to get revenge on Toronto, Toronto still sucks. So the lean would be to take the points with Toronto in this one, but I'm not going to quite get there with this one. Toronto, they're coming off a tough game too, though, as I just mentioned. So I don't want to play Toronto either, man. I mean, they just almost beat Denver, and now they're coming out of high elevation down to the Pacific Coast, playing a team that they just beat in Sacramento. They also have the Clippers up next, hilariously. So Toronto's not in a good spot either, man. When they just almost beat Denver again, I don't think that puts them in a very good spot after that. And in the last time they were in a spot like that, they lost to Charlotte, who also sucked. But I think Charlotte actually didn't cover in that game. I think Charlotte was like a 6-point favorite in that game, which kind of weirded me out when I saw that line. But yeah, so both teams are kind of in bad spots. I mean, maybe it's a situation where you want to look over in this one, but it's gone up from 234 to 238, or 234 and a half to 238. So you've kind of missed the boat if you want to play the over here. We're up to quite a high total in this one. I think it's the highest total on the entire board. So the odds makers are at least telling you this is probably going to be a high-scoring game with a couple of teams that aren't very good defensively. And the Kings could score as well. Kings up from 9.5 to 10.5. 75% of the tickets, but 98% of the cash. So it looks like the line is actually moving in the direction of the Kings. But because it's a return home spot, I actually think they're in a little bit of a worse spot there. Moving on to NHL. I have a play in the NHL. It's a small card, only three games. I know like Vegas Edmonton is a big game, and I'll just comment briefly because it looks like the market is indicating on Edmonton. Edmonton up from -106 to -114. 73% of the cash on them, but 65% of the tickets on the other side on Vegas. This might be a spot where Vegas may be a little bit more focused than Edmonton will be, because Edmonton, of course, is the team that won the conference last year. So Vegas might have a little bit of an extra chip on their shoulder, but the market looks like it is heavily indicating on the Edmonton side here. And Edmonton may still be the better team. Vegas is they're just alternating between goalies here, between Hill and Samsonov, although I think it's because both of them are actually decent goalies. Vegas hasn't played for a long time, man. They've had 3 days off, it looks like, after beating Utah in overtime, which kind of a close call, really, against an inferior Utah team. But now they're going out on the road to start a road trip. So it looks like kind of a positive spot to me for Vegas. Like, they didn't really have that much momentum to disrupt. Like, they had that win streak already disrupted by that loss to LA. So I don't think the fact that they won one game and then they had a lot of rest is going to really be a negative here necessarily. Like, they're probably going to be focused on Edmonton when Edmonton won the conference last year. But Edmonton's the team with the worst record here. But the teams are pretty close to evenly matched as far as what the odds makers are telling you with the line here. So no real edge one way or the other there. And I think Edmonton is in a positive spot too, because they returned home from a road trip and they lost in that return home spot to New Jersey. I had New Jersey in that game the other night. I thought it was a good spot. Picard played in net for Edmonton there, so he is the slightly worse of their two goalies. So Skinner is probably going to be back in net for them here. So Edmonton does have their better goalie. in net. And when you're a team that returned home from a road trip and didn't play well in that first game of the road, that first game back home, when you didn't play well, that first game back home and you fell into that distracted spot, which I think Edmonton did. And I think they were looking ahead to this game as well. It tends to be a much more positive spot in that second home game after you play badly in the first game. You tend to refocus a little bit. And they don't want to go 0-2 on this homestand either. So Edmonton has a reason to focus as well. So I expect both teams to show up focused here. But my play is going to be on a team starting a road trip against a team returning home from a road trip. What's up, Johnny? You saw them on, what was the show I was on the other night? I showed them on some show the other night. I don't even remember what show it was, but I did it. What am I looking at here? Oh, yeah. I'm going to play on the Detroit Red Wings minus 120 here. It looks like it's at minus 118, but I don't see it as low as minus 118. Maybe it's out there. Detroit just kind of sitting at minus 118 right now, but 65% of the tickets because, yeah, they are going to be public against a Chicago team that's not that good, but 88% of the cash also on Detroit. And I think this is kind of a cheap line, in my opinion, on Detroit here. The odds makers are telling you Detroit is the better of these two teams because they're laying a price on the road. Oh, shit, it just dropped to minus 114. Maybe we can get a better number on this. I hope it doesn't continue to drop necessarily, though, because I don't want the market to be indicating that I'm wrong about this. But I like the Detroit side in this one. It looks like the cash disparity is on it. I don't think this is a good spot for Chicago. And you're looking at a Chicago team that has a decent record of 5-7-1. So they're actually only like one game worse than Detroit record-wise. So it looks like this is almost like kind of an evenly matched game. And Chicago's been playing well recently, but I still think this is a spot to go against Chicago. I mean, the games that they won, yeah, they had a nice win over Anaheim, and I guess against Colorado, but they also lost to San Jose in there. A nice win over Los Angeles, the Kings, and they also beat Anaheim, but that's not very impressive. But whatever the case is, they had a 5-game road trip out to the Pacific Coast. Now they're returning home. They have 2 days off, but I think having the days off might kind of exacerbate this, and I think it might halt their momentum because they were on a nice roll at the end of that road trip with 2 straight wins, and now they're going to have to travel back home from the Pacific Coast, have 2 days off. They have to get back to their home life. I think it could be a distracted spot and kind of a momentum killer, and they get Detroit, who's kind of a mediocre team right now, mediocre record, and they do have Dallas up tomorrow. So it is possible Chicago is looking ahead to that Dallas game, and Minnesota after that is also a team playing really well right now. So it's possible that Chicago does land in a distracted spot here on the return home spot and facing a team that's lesser than the teams that they have up next against Detroit here. And like I said, it looks like based on the records, the game is close because Detroit's 5-5-1. Blackhawks 5-7-1. Although they're only 1-3 at home, though. They haven't been very good at home. But the Blackhawks have played some more difficult opponents at home, too, I think. Actually, not really. They beat San Jose at home. They did lose to Vancouver and Nashville. Those are good teams. And they lost to Buffalo, who isn't that good. Chicago is going to have their primary goalie back in net here in Mrazek because Soderblom played in the end of the road trip there. It'll be Mrazek again, unless he's hurt, or Mrazek. I don't know how to pronounce Mrazek, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I don't think it matters that much. I don't think either of them are great or particularly terrible either. So, Chicago, they're in a return home spot. That's really the main deal here, whereas Detroit is starting a road trip. So I like the spot for Detroit more. And they're coming off a win that broke a loss streak. So they had a loss streak against Buffalo, but they may have been looking ahead in that Buffalo game to Edmonton and then Winnipeg, and they played Edmonton tough, and then they lost to Winnipeg after that. No shame in losing those 2 games, and then they got revenge against Buffalo, but I think that's going to propel them forward, man. They do have a lot of days off, but it's not like they were on like a win streak where it's going to hurt their momentum necessarily, I don't think. I think that Chicago spot is more of a momentum stopper because all Detroit did is win 1 game. So that might just help end that loss streak a little bit. They wanted to halt that losing momentum, and that's what they did. So I think they still might have that win that's not a very impressive win, but it's a win that just helps you break that loss streak, really. So now you got to win. You can take that out on the road, even though they have had a couple of days off. And because it's the start of a road trip, I do think they'll actually be focused on Chicago here. And because they're at 500, they don't want to fall behind 500. They do have bigger games up after this against Toronto and the Rangers. But again, because they've had a bunch of days off, and this is the first game of the road trip, I expect focus from Detroit in this one. Detroit, I mean, they've had some goalie issues, though, so that's one thing to look at. They've been alternating between Leone and Talbot here. I don't know which one of them is going to be in net. It looks like they're alternating, so probably Leone in this one, but I don't know. And Detroit, at the very least, I think they faced the more difficult schedule, man, because you saw Chicago had played San Jose twice. They had Anaheim in there. Detroit's played a tough schedule. I mean, they played the Rangers twice, Edmonton, Winnipeg. New Jersey's not bad. Either Nashville is flying under the radar. So I think Detroit is actually the more battle-tested of these two teams as well. So we'll go with Detroit minus 120 in that one, or maybe you can get a little bit better on that. Sorry, Johnny. Yeah, I'm doing host shit. I'm cheating on the podcast here. What was the podcast that I actually was on where I showed the Milkers, though? Why can't I remember? Why am I on so many podcasts? It wasn't last night when I was on the election stream. Was it the Conspiracy Extremist show? Oh, no. It was with Jules. Jules was on Conspiracy Extremist show when I was on it the last time. But I was on Grey Pilled with Jules and Paranoid American. It was that show. We were talking about music on Saturday night. Go check that show out, man. It was a fun show. I gave them like 5 albums they'd never heard of to listen to. So yeah, go check that out. Extra plug. Let's talk about college football. I got to do this fast so I can get out of here. I have a play in college football as well. I'll talk about the game that I'm not playing first, which is the worst of these two games, Ohio and Kent State. Who wants to watch Kent State in a primetime game, man? I mean, come on. Ohio's up from 19 to 19 and a half. I mean, yeah, they're the way better team. Kent State, they're not even good for a MAC team, dude. Kent State is one of the worst teams in FBS. 78% of the cash also on Ohio and 57% of the tickets on the other side on Kent. I mean, I'm not going to play this game. I don't know what to think about this game. Ohio, maybe in a somewhat worse spot, possibly, because they just crushed Buffalo. So, I mean, that's at least kind of a big win, sort of. I mean, Buffalo's been a decent MAC team this year. So, I don't know what to think. And Ohio has been kind of alternating between Navarro and Poulos as their QBs. I think Navarro's the better QB, but Poulos has probably had to come in because Navarro's been injured. Navarro's a dual threat QB as well. So, you got to look and make sure Navarro's playing in this game. They probably are, because Ohio's laying that many points on the road. But still, I think both of these teams also had Saturday off. Now they're playing on Wednesday. Ohio may just potentially overlook Kent State just because they crushed Buffalo in their last game, and they're playing this bad Kent State team. But Ohio is still battling to try to get into the conference championship here with a 1-loss record in the conference. They have a chance to get into the conference championship, so they are still trying to do that. But Kent State, I mean, they haven't won a game yet. I mean, they did play Tennessee and Penn State, so not easy teams to face. So they got absolutely destroyed in those games. Didn't score and gave up 56 and 71 points in those games. I mean, this is a team that's just not good. They haven't done anything right. Maybe they'll show up just because they don't want to end the season winless, but that's really all I can say here. But, well, Kent State, I can say that their offense may be a little bit better since they made this QB change to Ulatowski. He's been more effective than the other guys that they had at quarterback, even though he's their third quarterback up. He's been playing a little bit better, so that's the best you can say, really. They just got clobbered by Western Michigan, who's atop the MAC right now. And I'm about to talk about Western Michigan, so I don't even know I don't know what to tell you to do with this Ohio-Kent game. I mean, obviously, I'm saying you should do what I'm doing and not play the game because it's just ridiculous. I mean, the cash disparity is indicating on the Ohio side with the line moving up on them, but I don't think I want to lay that many points on the road, even though, yes, this is a mismatch. Ohio's the way better team. They're way better on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, that is the case. But obviously, that's all factored into the line there. And total down from 53 to 52.5. 63% of tickets, only 59% of the cash. But with Kent State maybe actually being a little bit improved offensively with Ulatowski there, I'm not sure that I would necessarily want to be on an under in that one either, even though I don't want to be in a public primetime over really either. The game I'm playing, though, is on this Northern Illinois team, minus 1.5. You might have to lay -2 now, but I wouldn't want to lay more than 2, but as long as you're as long as you're laying under a field goal, I guess, basically, because I'm in basketball mode, sorry, but this is football. Yeah, as long as you're laying under the field goal, I think it's probably still good. Northern Illinois flipped from +1 to -2. They have 53% of the cash on them and 81% of tickets on the other side on Western Michigan. Totals down from 53 to 51.5, with 76% of tickets, 95% of the cash on the over. So cash percentage on the over, but total dropping a little bit. But I'm not going to get involved on the total here. I'm playing the side, and I'm playing the team with the better defense, and that is Northern Illinois. The cash disparity is way on the Northern Illinois side, so I agree with that as well. Western Michigan is public, and you'll see why when I get to this in one moment here. Western Michigan, I mean, you look at these teams' records, yeah, and it's like a pick'em line, basically, and actually Western Michigan is getting points now at home. Of course, the public is going to come in on Western Michigan because they're 4-0 in the MAC. Northern Illinois is 1-3 in the MAC, and Western Michigan has a better overall record. So what gives? How is Western Michigan getting 2 points at home in this game? Well, I'm about to tell you that obviously the odds makers are also telling you Northern Illinois is the better of these two teams. They've faced the more difficult schedule. They're the better team, man. Western Michigan, they are all offense. Yes, their offense can score, but they're not very good defensively, and Northern Illinois has one of the better defenses in the MAC. Northern Illinois is still a better MAC team, man, and they just haven't shown it yet, and they've played a difficult schedule so far and a difficult MAC schedule. Western Illinois, by the way, has not. I mean, look at who they faced in the MAC. They faced Ball State, Akron, Buffalo, and Kent State. Really? They faced like some of the worst teams in the MAC pretty much. So they've had a very easy MAC schedule, and they barely beat Ball State. They didn't beat Buffalo by that much. They weren't even that impressive against Akron. So what do we have to look at here with Western Michigan? Yeah, they put up a bunch of points, okay, but their defense wasn't even able to like hold these like horrible teams like Ball State and really in Akron and Buffalo. Their defense was bad against all those teams. So this Western Michigan, they have some major defensive vulnerabilities, man. And yes, they did face Wisconsin and Ohio State, fine. They lost them both, not shocking. Their one win early in the season was against Bethune-Cookman, an FCS team. So, yeah, okay, whatever. They gave up 31 points in that game. So, yeah, great on Western Michigan's part. And they lost at Marshall. Marshall's an okay Sun Belt team. But this Western Michigan, I mean, this is not an impressive resume. They might overlook Northern Illinois a little bit, man, because Western Michigan, look at this. They're atop the conference, and who do they play next? They play Bowling Green next week in 6 days, actually, in another primetime action midweek game. Bowling Green is the team that's closest to them in the standings here, so that's potentially a battle for MAC supremacy there. They're looking at the standings. Northern Illinois is not going to do anything. They're 1-3, so Western Michigan might be looking ahead to Bowling Green, man, because that's a big matchup between the top two MAC teams, so it could be a look ahead as well. I think the line is indicating something that the records don't tell you, which is that Northern Illinois is the better team. We all know Northern Illinois had that huge upset of Notre Dame, which it seems like kind of an outlier, but still, it tells you Northern Illinois can compete with some elite teams like Notre Dame, man. I mean, that's still an impressive win. They held Notre Dame to 14 points, even though Notre Dame was still getting used to having Riley Leonard is the quarterback there now? I think so. Still getting used to them, but still, Northern Illinois went to South Bend and beat them. Then I think you can explain the Buffalo loss, which I was on Buffalo in this game because I thought it was a big letdown spot for Northern Illinois. They're actually coming out of a bye going into the Buffalo game, but they lost to Buffalo because I think they were still in letdown mode after that. Then they played another step-up game. They had to go on the road to NC State, an ACC team, so obviously Northern Illinois is an inferior team there, but they played them close to within 7. So Northern Illinois, when they play these big conference teams, they played well. They played competitively against Notre Dame and NC State, so that's not bad. And then in the conference so far, they played Bowling Green already and beat them on the road somehow, even though Bowling Green's one of the top teams in the conference. And they lost to Toledo only by 7, and Toledo is still one of the better teams in the MAC, even though they're sitting in the middle right now. So they've had a much more difficult schedule and more difficult conference schedule. And what are they coming off of? They just lost to Ball State, who is one of the worst teams in the conference. Ball State upset them as like a double-digit underdog. So they're going to be in bounce-back mode, man. Northern Illinois is a 13.5-point favorite in this game. They lost to Ball State. Northern Illinois is -4 in turnovers in this game. That's not going to happen again here, man. That they did get outgained, but that's part of the reason they lost that game. I think they may have been in a sandwich spot because they played Bowling Green, Toledo, two of the better teams in the MAC, and they had the top team in the MAC standings up next in Western Michigan. So I think they got caught in this Ball State game, man. I think it was a sandwich. They didn't play well. This is a bounce back spot for them, man. Going into the house of the team that's sitting atop the conference, who's a little bit overrated, and oddsmakers are telling you Northern Illinois is actually the better team, and they have the better defense, and that's it. Northern Illinois, -1.5. The plays, once again, are Cal State Northridge to kick off college basketball, -1. Hockey, Detroit Red Wings, -120. College football, action, Northern Illinois, -1.5 or -2. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tower Gang Toad. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Follow the Tower Gang podcast, of course. We are on tonight, 9:11 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, baby. Patreon.com/Tower Gang to throw us some support and get live pre-show, post-show, and hang out with us on a Telegram, submit to the mailbag. And that's going to do it, man. Have a good one. Let's get some wins. Peace.